Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna go underwater and we're gonna talk about wintertime cranking. Flat-sided crankbaits, narrow crankbaits, balsa crankbaits. We're gonna talk about it all. We'll see you underwater, guys. Let's go. Middle of the winter time, DT8, nice smallmouth. Let's go! All right guys, so when we're talking about cranking in the wintertime, oftentimes most people are referring to your flat-sided crankbaits or your traditionally narrow-bodied crankbaits. The first bait up today we're gonna talk about is a wintertime classic. It is the Rapala Shad Rap. This is a number 6 size, so this is a bigger size crankbait. Now, I really enjoyed this bait with weighted trebles on it. I put bigger trebles on it to hold it down in the water so it doesn't rise as fast. I really enjoy this bait in water temps under 50 degrees. This bait excels, right? In those high 40s to mid 40s, if you're gonna crank, the Shad Rap is a great way to get it done. Now, on all of these crankbaits that I'm talking about, I fish them on 8 to 6 pound, even 4-pound test fluorocarbon in cold water because I want to get maximum cast. I want to get that bait down to its working depth immediately. So the Shad Rap, anytime you're around rocks, any kind of vegetation, this bait is going to excel. It has a narrow wobble, as you can see on the underwater footage, and this bait truly excels in cold water. Now, you can throw this in a variety of sizes. I like 6s and I like 8s. I love this crawfish color pattern here. For some reason, in cold water, red seems to get bit. I always add red treble hooks to this bait too. It helps it get bit in a faster momentum. This bait we're chucking out there, we're slow winding back, we're letting that bait work, and then anytime we hit something, we're gonna let it pause, and it should slowly rise or sit and suspend perfectly if you got the trebles weighted. These are number 2 treble hooks right here on this size 6 bait, and this is a great big fish bait in cold water, right? Next up, we're going to talk about another traditional bait, which is the Rapala DT8 and DT6. I really like the DT8 in cold water because when we're cranking in cold water, I am wanting to find veins of rock, veins of sand, anywhere those bass are going to sit belly on the bottom. The DT8 runs at a perfect depth for most of the lakes and most of the cover that I'm fishing. Down south, you can run the DT6 or the DT4. Up north, you can run the DT10. And you're just literally finding where that bait is hunting. Now, the DT6 and DT8 are some of the greatest crankbaits ever made. They are very, very stable. They run very well out of the package. I like the fact that they don't have rattles on them. I go behind a lot of guys fishing baits with rattles and end up catching fish behind them where they don't. I'm a big proponent in cold water of fishing baits that don't have rattles in most situations. I really love crawfish colored baits this time of year. For some reason, they get the job done. This bait right here, I also love that orange belly. Up north, that orange belly definitely seems to get a bit better than anything else. That crawfish color, when I'm cranking rock, when I'm cranking structure, I'm basically grinding this bait down, pausing it, allow it to slow rise, grinding it down. You can see it's got a nice tight action, nice silent roll and wobble on it. It is a fantastic bait underwater. It's a fantastic bait to crank all the way through the winter up into the spring, right? Great, great, great bait. So while we were setting up for the shot, I actually hooked up with a smallmouth, got some super cool underwater footage right here. Let's go! Middle of the winter time, DT8, nice smallmouth. Let's go! Next up, staying in that traditional old school wintertime cranking, we have the Storm Wigglewort. The Storm Wigglewort is one of those baits that has a nice rattle in it. I fish this bait a lot when I'm around rock, but I also like to fish this bait a lot around active fish, right? If I go down a bank and I catch one with a DT8, I'm gonna run back down that same bank, Cranking the Wigglewort, it has a wider, more pronounced action, and it's got that rattle in it. I really, once again, enjoy crankbait colors in this bait. I have a lot of trust. You can see the teeth marks on this bait. This thing's been chewed, right? And it's just an excellent crankbait. The guys figured this out on Table Rock, on Bull Shoals, on all those classic southern fisheries a long time ago, but it plays up here north. If I go to the St. Joe River and I'm cranking for smallmouth, this is gonna get the look. If I go up to Lake Michigan and I'm cranking rocks and jetty piles, this is gonna get the look. This is a fantastic bait. It comes through cover extremely well. I think of it as a deep square bill. You can see that lip on it, the way that it really hunts and wiggles and dives. It's counterintuitive to winter crankbait fishing, but this bait will absolutely flat out catch them for you. When me and Sam went down to fish Raccoon Lake, which is a drawdown lake in Indiana, I caught a bunch of fish on this bait. It's just a bait that I trust. The action is true. If you can find the ones, the pre-wrap storms, they're good, but they're like 70, 80 bucks a rip now. I enjoy the Wigglewort. I think that they're consistent bait across and producing numbers for me. Once again, you can see the addition of red hooks there. I really believe that makes a difference in cold water. So that's your traditional set of 3 baits right there that I tend to crank. Now you have a whole nother niche set of baits that I've come to adopt into my arsenal and begin to throw. And these are flat-sided crankbaits with circuit board lips, right? These flat-sided crankbaits, this is the Rapala OG Slim right here. And basically this is a number 6 size. It is a fantastic cold water bait. I have a lot of confidence in this bait. It has a nice tight shimmy and night wobble, no rattles. It's got those oversized hooks on it out of the package. This bait's gonna have a slow suspend on the pause or a slow rise. The bigger hooks on there slow it down. I've actually turned this bait into a producer for me over the last 1.5 years, right? I was kind of skeptical of it because I'm kind of skeptical of a lot of crankbaits up here in the North Country fishing grass lakes. A lot of crankbaits just don't produce. This one does, right? This OG Slim has a great action all the way through the winter. If I'm fishing grass lines and in 7 feet of water, I'm gonna pick this bait up because I know that I can just tick the tops of them. I can pause it and let it back out, right? It's really responsive on 8-pound fluorocarbon. It does a fantastic job. It's got a nice subtle wobble. But the thing is this bait will fish all the way through the spring into the summer. This is a bait that's subtle that you can throw behind a lot of guys who are throwing a jerk bait, who are throwing a swim bait, who are throwing other stuff. I really enjoy this bait because it's subtle, but it gets bit. It produces, and it's a great way to cover water. That subtle roll on it looks really good underwater. Now, staying in that flat-sided category, we have the Bagley Sunny B. If you know anything about Bagley, they've kind of reinvented themselves. They were an OG producer, and then they kind of fell off there for a little bit, and they're back now. I really have a lot of confidence in the Sunny B. I like the profile because it looks like a sunfish profile, right? Once again, the Bagley Sunny B is gonna run about 5-6 feet of water, right? And it's gonna have a nice tight wiggle and a tight action. Plus it is an undersized crankbait. For a size comparison, look at it next to that OG Slim. That bait has almost the same profile, but it's different. Bagley makes an awesome crankbait. I run these in the shallow and deep model. This one I enjoy a lot. I really like this color right here, that black back chartreuse. Once again, you see that orange belly. It's got a nice tight action underwater. This is a producer in the wintertime for me, but it also produces in the springtime pre-spawn. This is a great bait to throw. I throw this when bass are primarily feeding on sunfish, right? For whatever reason, that pulse underwater, it really plays well in sunfish dominant lakes and in lakes where bass are really into grass cover and are ambushing out of it. I really like winding this down into the grass, pausing it, letting it come up, winding it down, pausing it, letting it come up. Great action underwater, nice tight action, good winter crankbait right here from Bagley. And the third one is the oversized Bagley Slim right here. Once again, see how narrow that bait is? It is almost identical to the OG Slim in terms of size and profile. This one just has a different action. It has a more subtle action. It has a bigger head down profile. It runs about the same depth, but it is definitely flatter than the OG Slim, and it has a different action. Bagley did a great job with this. I really like that orange back with a white side. I fish this in dirtier off-colored water. A lot of guys don't like to fish silent crankbaits in off-colored water. I really enjoy this bait. It does a fantastic job. It's got a nice tight wiggle and a nice tight action on it. Go ahead and check that one out. So moving into our third category, these are multi-species baits that have a play in bass fishing. The first one is a classic, right? This is a thin fin hot and tot by Storm. This is a trout lure, a walleye lure. A lot of guys troll this bait, but what I like about this is that metal bill on this bait causes it to rise extremely slow. I love this bait around schools of bait, because what happens is you crank this down through the school of bait and then it's gonna slow wobble just like that right up to the surface. This is a great bait to throw. It's a different look. That metal bill on it, right, definitely pulls it slower to the surface, and it's a bait that bass do not see a lot of. We went up to the St. Joe River in Michigan and we're catching steelhead, and smallmouth were unloading on this bait. And I was like, well, what's going on here? You know, is it just they're there? And turns out I started fishing this bait a lot more in this size. And literally it's that slow wobble up to the surface that makes them want to hit this bait. It's a great smallmouth bait. I like the colors. They're loud in the wintertime in clear water. Sometimes a loud color is really, I'll have to cut that out, is really going to produce for you. It's a different look for a lot of fish, right? And our final bait here is a bait that walleye guy know all about. It is the Berkeley Flicker Shad, right? And the Flicker Shad is a fantastic bait. They've got really good paint schemes on them, but what I like is the narrow profile of this bait, the narrow bill, and the fact that this has a high-pitched rattle, right? That high-pitched rattle and whine is really going to get this bait bit. It's a bait that was built and made to troll, right? And I've caught a lot of fish on this: walleye, crappie, bass, smallmouth, spotted bass. I went to Lake Cumberland and threw this one year in the summer and just loaded the boat with spots, because this size crankbait is not something that fish are used to seeing, right? It does a great job of flashing, as you can see on the underwater footage, and it's got a nice tight shimmy. It's a different minnow profile that fish really aren't used to seeing. There's a ton of different sizes and colors, a lot of great options for that Berkeley Flicker Shad. Guys, I hope you enjoyed going underwater today with us, seeing those different baits underwater, watching the actions, watching how they react to pauses, doing all that stuff. Channel's growing. Let us know what baits you want us to focus on. Let us know what underwater video you want to see. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, tap that bell for us so you get notifications when we post videos. We're growing. We're trying to do things that you guys want to see. Thanks for hanging out with us today, guys. We'll see you out there.